All right, we just brought on a live recording.
So we're live on the broadcast?
Yep, so I'm going to get started with the broadcast here now. All right, guys, we're going to go live here shortly. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in and watching us. This is Get the You Factor
What's up?
with Mike Driggers and Nicholas Fordham.
This is Nicholas Fordham.
This is Mike Driggers.
That's Nicholas.
We just got back from New York. We're going to hear about it.
Yeah, just got back. I'm Nicholas, by the way.
All right.
And I got 30 seconds.
Okay.
A little bit of both.
Meets halfway in the middle.
I'm 15 seconds behind you. How does that work out?
He's 15 seconds ahead of you.
10 seconds.
Yeah. You can't see me. Very. There you go. Scoot over.
Welcome to Get the You Factor with Mike Driggers and Nicholas Fordham. What is it that holds you from achieving greatness? Does greatness just come to those that are struck by lightning or have just hit that lucky streak? What really does make people achieve everything they want out of life? These questions span across the globe as millions of people settle into their life thinking that they don't have what it takes to truly get what they want out of life. Simply put, most people just give up on their dreams and aspirations to move forward with their repetitious habits that have been cemented around their lifestyle. Is this because they don't have what it takes to achieve their goals? The answer is no. You do have what it takes to accomplish anything you truly desire, and it starts with finding your inner you. With Get the You Factor, we go step by step in educating you on the key principles to achieve anything you want out of life. By tapping into our resources and following along with our weekly broadcasts, we will guide you through a journey of self-awareness and self-improvement. We will take you deep into your mind to determine what your mental blocks are that are holding you back from your true potential. You do have what it takes, and we are here to help you prove it to yourself. So how's it going, Mike?
I am fantastic. Had an amazing weekend. I flew out to New York and I spoke in New York and was able to talk and sit down with Teresa from our show last week on, managing chaos, moms managing chaos. So that was a really good time, and had some amazing times in New York, and took Gabby with me, my fiance, and she had never been there, and so we went exploring. But it was just overall a really good trip and long trip. It's like layovers and flights and delays. I think we were flying into New York and we had to circle around Washington for an hour just to be able to go land in New York. So,
oh man.
Yeah, so we were on a plane circling, and but even those red eyes, when you take red eyes, you think you're going to sleep. You don't sleep.
Yeah. There's no way.
There's no.
You can make those chairs as comfortable as possible.
Yeah, especially a big guy like me. I'm stuck in the middle or in the corner. And so, but it was good. It was a good week. How about you?
Well, I tell you, the power of social media. I felt like I was there with you. I watched it on Facebook. I liked all the pictures, and I'm glad you were able to connect with Teresa. She was a wonderful woman, and Teresa, if you're listening, thank you for being on the show last week.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great show too. I walked away from that show. Matter of fact, I talked about it, that, talking to, we talked about setting up a date night and with your spouse and managing time, and it really made me think about that. And so on the way home from the show last night, I called Gabby and said, I really want to set up a date night and start really putting our energies towards that, because we used to do it, then chaos, life, kids, everything started stepping in and took over. But the interesting thing is that I was missing it, and then when I asked her about it, what I found out how she had been feeling, and she was kind of feeling that I wasn't there for her, or I didn't really care, which is it was totally not true. I do, I still do. I'm still wanting to
well, you just engaged to her.
Yeah, exactly. So she, they and I need those reassurance sometimes, and the date night allows us to communicate and be with each other. So
it's amazing how perception is from two different angles.
Yeah, Absolutely. You may be thinking one thing and it's a totally different story on the other end. So, absolutely.
Well, as you guys know, every time we start the show, we do a positive affirmation. And this is from the book Mastering of the Mindset, The Power of Affirmations by Mr. Mike Driggers, to my right. And remember, with each one of our positive affirmations, you want to recite them to yourself 3 times a day in the mirror. Remember, if you're doing it in your car, you're parked on the side of the road in a parking spot. Look in the mirror, say the positive affirmation, do it in the bathroom, do it throughout the day, throughout the entire week until the next live broadcast of our show. Remember, we always broadcast 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tuesdays. This is a weekly show. And if you want to listen to us, go ahead and go on to onetalknetwork.com. We play throughout the entire week, the pre-recorded shows. But the Tuesdays is the live show that gets recorded on onetalknetwork.com, part of One Music Network. Today's affirmation is, are you ready?
I'm ready. How about our Webland people? Are they ready? They're out there?
They're ready.
They can see us. All right, let's go. They see the back of our heads. we look pretty good from behind.
All right, the affirmation is, I am surrounded by love and encouragement. Again, I am surrounded by love and encouragement. Everywhere I go, I feel approval radiating towards me. I make choices that I am proud of, and if I ever feel uncertain about myself or my decisions, I remember that all the love I need is there for me. I am surrounded by love and encouragement. Each day, my family shows me that they love me. They hug me to say hello or goodbye. My partner asks how my day was. My children are excited to see me when I get home. I know that my family loves and approves of me. At work, I feel encouraged by those around me. I watch for signs of their approval. Sometimes they express this in big ways, such as nominating me for awards or offering me a long-desired promotion. At other times, they encourage me by simply saying thank you. Their gratitude lets me know that what I do matters. And if I ever feel down, I remind myself that I am a valuable person and that my actions have positive effects. I call to mind all of my past successes, and I make sure to extend myself the same love and encouragement that I endeavor to give others. After all, love is a verb, an action. To really care for others, I have to first love myself. Today, I know that I'm surrounded by love and encouragement. Everywhere I turn, I see signs that I am valued. These signs inspire me each day to re-educate myself in acting lovingly towards myself.
Great, and that's a great topic for today. But one of the things that we always do with the affirmations is we want you to walk away with some self-reflection questions, and we always have 3 questions, and we also want you to live by the day with a quote. And today's self-reflection questions is, number 1, when am I most aware of the love and encouragement that surrounds me? I want you to think about that. Again, when am I most aware of the love and encouragement that surrounds me? Number 2, when could I use more approval? In your life, that's a big one. When can I use more approval? Number 3, in these situations, in what ways can I show myself love? Again, in these situations, in what ways can I show myself love? And now the quote for the day we want you to live by is, to be, to the world, you may be just one person, but to one person, you may be the world. That's a powerful quote, and it's by Brandy Snyder. And I think about that once in a while. You may, to someone out there, something you say or do gives that person that encouragement and love, and you can mean the world to that one person, right? And that's their whole world is about you and catering to you. Which then, what's interesting is today's show, we're going to be talking about managing your anger like a pro and enjoying happier relationships. One of the things that does come up in society and even for ourselves is anger. Every once in a while, people have different levels of anger, and sometimes it's okay to be mad, but it's what you do with that anger afterwards and how you handle it. And I know last couple of weeks you've been going through some character building experiences. Why don't you kind of share with the audience
Oh,
what's
yeah,
happened to you.
I've had 2 laptops stolen and my cell phone, all in the last 2 weeks. So it's definitely been character building, and I think this is a great show because I think everyone in the human race deals with anger management.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's anybody out there that doesn't, and it's just a matter of who handles it differently.
Yeah, I mean, how you handle it, and then is it getting escalated, and are you escalating and not realizing it, and how do you deal with anger, and really, does anger come from that situation, or is it a different source? And I would assume that 99% of the time it comes from a different source, and we have an expert with us today, and we're going to introduce him here in a little bit, but the topics and what we're going to cover throughout the show is, understanding your anger is one thing, the myths about anger, and then the importance of controlling anger, not just from a mental but physical as well, and what it does to your body, but how other people perceive you, right? And we're going to have some tips and then some suggestions, and that's what today's show. And so we have a special guest with us, and his name is Terry Gilbert. Now, Terry Gilbert's been teaching for over 14 years in the public school sector. He retired early to follow his desire to help people manage and cope with their anger. Mr. Gilbert is a certified anger management facilitator through Anderson & Anderson. He's also is certified as a domestic violence batters and treatment facilitator, where currently the counties that he works for and he's certified domestic violence programs is in Modesto, Merced, Mariposa, Fresno counties. In addition, Terry is involved in other educational programs and is employed by the Los Rios Community College District, where he achieved another goal of teaching at the community college level, becoming involved with writing life skill materials, and has a current book being published on that subject. He teaches and develops curriculum for the the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department for ongoing life skills and pre-employment classes for advancement of work release clients. He also is involved in various programs with Grant Joint Union High School District and Transitional Living. Recently, Mr. Gilbert has also elected to the American Anger Management Board of Directors, the AAMPA. Terry has a cross-culture language academic development educational degree and has completed courses on drug abuse, psychology of a marriage, introduction to psychology, as well as other extensive trainings in various workshops related to parenting, conflict resolution, law and ethics, emotional intelligence, just to name a few. With Mr. Gilbert's education and personal experience and hands-on training, he has become what I would consider the specialist in executive coaching and for both one-on-one and group sessions. His passion for life and compassion for people and families shine through all in his dedication to his work. Mr. Gilbert has just written a life skills manual for troubled teens, and let's look for that information here soon. So let's welcome to the call our friend, your friend, in our radio show here on Get the You Factor, Terry Gilbert. Terry,
Welcome.
welcome.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell me, we were out there, talking and kind of just getting to know you and your background, and it was interesting, the story about how you got started. How does one get started in anger management, or at least how did you get started? I'd like the audience to hear how you got started.
Okay, appreciate that. I don't know. I heard a lot of things you said there. I'm kind of tired with all the education I got.
I'm telling you, this is
Quite a resume.
The resume kept going on and on and on.
238 college units. If I just would have done them all in the right area, I'd probably, who knows what I'd do. Anyway, I really appreciate it. I think a lot of us, our emotions are something that's so hidden in us because we haven't learned about it. So now that we're beginning to really tap into it, and that's what anger management is to me today, it's learning about your emotions and in combination with your IQ and that side of you. So I never had a problem because I was well educated. Everything I did, I was on top. So I was a high school athletic director. I had 5 principals in 11 years, and so they brought this principal in to clean up the campus. I'd heard that before. I was standing out on the football field, and this principal came out and said something, and they just had a vote about 3 days earlier for the most popular teacher on campus. I think I got the award because I think all the kids were hanging out smoking pot behind the greenhouse. I was an ag teacher and the athletic director, so I thought I was pretty hot stuff. So this principal came out and said something to me, and I said, you know what? I'm going to put an X on your forehead and drive it to your rear end. So I said, you say one more word, I'm going to hit you. He didn't say another word, thank God, or I would have lost my credentials and everything. So he didn't say anything, but the next day I was told by the superintendent of schools and him that I had to go to anger management. So they put me in a batter's treatment program, and I was sitting in with people that were knifing their wives and hitting them and stuff, and I said, what is this? So after 12 sessions, I decided I could teach this better than they could. Got into the field. So I guess the story is this. It doesn't matter what happens to you, it's how you handle it. It's I've got to have my own private business for 11 years now, and it's just been really exciting. I think you can prepare for education all you want, but is where you really learn is working with people, as you two know. So it's a pleasure to meet you here today and hear of your ventures, and we'll just do that. But it's really been an eye-opener for me. So I think I do it. I've told my customers before, I don't call them clients, I call them customers, so I got to try to make them happy and teach them things. So we talk about anger and what it is, tips to managing it, stress management, emotional intelligence, how we change as we become adult, and then how do we communicate it different. So those are our 4 areas.
You know, there's a quote that I love, and it's by Buddha, and it says, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned, right? A lot of times people, they hold anger into them, which then builds up and creates, and that's one way of anger. Tell us a little bit about that, you know, how people can, you know, release and how that goes on.
All right. Well, I think the first thing you got to do is you got to be self-aware that you even got a problem. See, that was my problem, was that I always believed that I was smart. I didn't listen to my emotions as much. I knew I had feelings and stuff. When I was upset, I'd go to some kind of different thing, and so a lot of people use drinking and different things, and so you release your things. And I think the word that you said earlier, do we have a problem in one area and take it someplace else? It's the biggest word in anger management, so it's called displacement. You get angry one place and then you take it over to another place and let it out on somebody. So here's somebody innocently that you're dealing with, and it's usually somebody you love, and so you take it out on them because you're uptight. But other people use drugs and other kind of substances to get out of it. So
Yeah, because they don't know how to release it.
they don't know how to release it. So
Right.
if you start to learn your brain, how it works a little bit, the hijack, and you start to deal with it. So self-awareness has got to be number 1. So you start to do that, and then you got to get control of your own emotions, number 2. Number 3 is motivation to change. Number 4 is empathy. I think you hit on that earlier. You got to have feelings for other people and understand them. Do you have to agree with them? No. But if you have understanding, you do pretty well. And the last one is how do you handle emotions in others? So kind of a neat deal. And if you do all 5 of those, you can become emotionally intelligent. But it takes some training, so education is the key to it in my mind.
Well, you know what? We're going to go to break here right now, and here at One Talk Network and GettheYouFactor.com. But when we come back, let's talk about that emotional training and how we help people. I know that on my way back from New York, I had an incident, and I caught myself and realized afterwards, you know, what happened, and we'll share that story. But we're definitely looking forward to hearing more from Terry Gilbert and his expertise and how to, you know, train the mind to control the anger. So with that, we'll talk to you here as soon as we get back.
You're natural.
You're a rock star. We're still on live too. Okay.
I'm not going too fast.
Oh,
No,
you're perfect.
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 Okay,
You liking it?
Picking it up, yeah.
Yeah.
Once I get loose, watch out.
Here we go.
I'll keep
Time to
trying
go.
to keep up with you two. You're very good.
Thank you.
I appreciate
Oh,
you.
you,
make me
you
feel
should have seen my first show here. I still have marks where my chin, I was like dropping it, hitting it everywhere. I couldn't speak, stumbling, right?
You're always talking this way. Looking.
So move it over.
Just sorry. Joe, here's an angle.
I guess that makes a
It's
difference.
pretty good though. It's pretty good. I just
Because I'm always like this.
yeah.
Leaning
Yeah,
over.
it's good. It registers well right here on the screen.
Yeah, we're good. They're at the live on the web. Say hi, Bill, to everybody.
Hello,
By
everyone.
the way, behind
Cameras
you.
that way.
Oh, yeah.
See their
Oh,
head. Well,
Okay,
they just seen the best part of you. Hope everybody's having a great day. I know it's a warm day here in Sacramento. Whew,
Yeah, it is.
someone brought on the heat.
Oh yeah, it was 90, 95?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But that was a big change coming from New York back to here.
Yeah. Well, the first day we had overcast and some slight sprinkles, and then we had a little rain, and then it was just a bright, beautiful day. Like I mean, it was just on, and so yeah, it was. We had fun.
New York's beautiful.
Yeah, went to Times Square, did a lot of cool things.
It's a good place to go and engage.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I used to live there
Expensive
when I was a little kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived in the Bronx till I was 6.
Wow.
So I was pretty much raised out here. Last time I was there, I was 8. So I know a lot's changed.
There was a lot of really good people. I spoke out there, did some training, and for the real estate program that I do, and so we just met some amazing people, really good quality people, and then we got a chance to meet Teresa from the last show.
Cool.
So yeah, she's cool.
Did you meet her?
No, I was here when they did the show though, like on the.
Yeah, she called in. She
Oh,
called
okay.
in.
That's
So,
how.
yeah, so we can do call-ins too. Here soon in the future, we'll probably do some live call-ins once we
Yeah,
build up.
Yeah, questions are always fun.
work it up to Skype too, and
Yeah.
live video ins.
Yeah. How much longer?
1 minute and 4 seconds.
1 minute, 4
All
seconds.
right, guys, we'll be back in 1 minute.
And 4 seconds. Hey, I resemble that remark. So when we come back, I'll tell a little story, and then we'll get into the changing, and then any stories that you want to add in.
Yeah, it'll open up by itself.
Very good.
I got a story for each one of those 5 things I said.
Great. Great.
So if you ask something particularly, I can give you the story.
Well, we'll just go off
Empathy
the.
then, or motivation, or
Yeah, we'll
the
just
one
go-
handling emotions and others is a great one.
And we'll talk about the myths. Anger should always
10
be
seconds.
vented,
Okay.
and it's
5,
unhealthy to
4,
hold anger.
3.
Welcome back to Get the You Factor with Mike Driggers and Nicholas Fordham. Today's show, we're talking about anger management and helping to develop your relationships by controlling your anger and manage anger like a pro and enjoy happier relationships. And even though you guys all out there listening are learning something new, it's amazing how each one of these shows actually hit me. When I'm listening and conducting these shows, it's learning lessons for myself. And so, everyone that's out there, I invite you to take this journey, take the voyage, and register on the website, GettheYouFactor.com. Take a look at some of these worksheets that we go through as we're discussing the different topics on the show. All of these workbooks we put in the members area on GettheYouFactor.com. And of course, for those of you watching, we do broadcast live on video on GettheYouFactor.com. We've got our special guest today, Mr. Terry Gilbert. Terry, thank you so much for being a part of the show.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and as we went to break, we were talking about the different ways of controlling the mind in commerce, in that anger process. And, I was talking about there was something when I was coming back from New York, we had gotten off the plane. We had 2 hours of layover, and we're sitting there and there was this plane sitting at the where you get on, right, the runway, and we're at the gate and we're waiting, and this particular plane's going to Ireland, and it's getting close to our time to leave, and that plane hasn't left yet, and I'm like, something's going on. So I run over and I look at it, and they switched our gates, and somehow they didn't inform us, or maybe they did and we weren't listening. There's so much going on. So we ended up having to go to way on the other side, and we had like 10, 15 minutes. And we're rushing over there, and I'm so focused on trying to find our gate, and I don't have my seeing-eye glasses because I can't see far away, right? Up close I can. And matter of fact, you're looking pretty handsome for, I always think far away, I couldn't tell, but you're a pretty sharp guy. Anyway, so as we're getting closer to the gate, my Gabby, my fiance, she's talking about these tablets at the bar. Each bar and each station had these tablets, and you could order from the tablets, and really cool. We saw it when we came in, and we took pictures and thought it was cool, but here she's wanting to talk to me, and I'm like so focused on trying to get to the gate and trying to find it, and I'm worried about, are we going to get there in time, boarding, all these things going through your head, and so she's one, and I said, yeah, honey, right now I'm focused on the gate, okay? And I kind of snapped at her a little bit, not too much, but enough that it made her come up with a comment that, you're not an easy person to fly with. And I was like, wow, where'd that come from? And because usually I'm not, and I just, at that point it hurt her, but and it wasn't even her that I was upset, because I would want to know about and be with her, but the fact is I was mad because of the situation, and it brought it back to, it just happened to be her being there to take the blunt of it, and that was wrong of me, and I feel bad for it, and so I apologize to her, and continue to apologize for it. But
I think that's a great story there. Here's what I've learned in that part, though, is that I make those mistakes myself. I try not to, but here's what I've learned to do. If I say something or do something that I know I did wrong, I'm getting in touch with my emotions, right?
Right.
So if I go too far, I go, dang it, and then I forgive myself immediately. So, you can tell that story over and over, but I think you're done. I think she knows that.
Sure.
She's happy again, because now you made date night and stuff.
Sure.
Fantastic stuff. You wouldn't have made that game without that feeling.
Sure.
So all of it, if you get that feeling, you just forgive yourself if you make a mistake. If you just hang on to it, it keeps happening over and over.
Right.
And I think you brought that up. So I've learned to forgive myself. Dang it, I made a mistake. Just stop when you're in the middle of that. Forgive yourself, and then get right back to a calm down state. So
Sure.
that was well done.
And a lot of
Well
people,
done.
and it's funny because a lot of people, and especially I think in men in society, you and I were talking about this, is our egos tend to prevent us to open up and say, I'm sorry, right?
Right.
Which our next show is about that in next week, and maybe we should have you on for that show too, right? So, but it starts there, and it is taking that moment and saying, you know what, I did make this mistake, and there's nothing wrong with saying you're
that's
sorry,
right.
And you
That's it.
release it.
You
It's
got it.
more not just for the person that was involved, but because your inner body, your mind, your subconscious mind holds on to that, and your body starts to deteriorate with that negativity, right? We talked about it on the show before, when you have all this negativity being pushed to frozen water, it changes its mechanism, right? Or what do you call it?
Dr. Otto, I believe.
Yeah, and it would change, and then when you put positive, it changed it to a very beautiful snowflakes and so on. So that negativity is in our body, which then just breaks down the water.
I like how you said to forgive yourself after it. I've been very self-destructive in relationships. I find myself getting angry over something very small, very minimal, and I get angry, and then I say something I shouldn't have said, and then I continue to push it further because I didn't stop it. And it's like I'm standing in the corner watching myself get angrier and angrier and angrier, but I don't stop myself, forgive myself, and then look at myself and see what I'm doing.
Very good. Well, the second part that I talked about, handling your own emotions first, I can tell you the story behind that.
Sure.
Down at Stanford University, they did this test with 4-year-olds. So Stanford University, it's where I should have taught if I would have put all my stuff in the right area. I love that university. a couple of my students have went there. So I've fallen in love with Stanford. So this study came out of Stanford, so I just perked up, and I've never forgotten. So they brought these 4-year-old kids in, and the guy that was ahead of it, they found out they all like marshmallows. It's called the marshmallow test. So they brought them in and they put a plate out, and they says, now if you want a marshmallow, you can go ahead and eat it. So they made sure that the kids didn't get in trouble eating the marshmallow. So they looked at it a little bit, and he says, well, hold it now, I'll tell you what, I got to run an errand. If you'll wait until I come back, I'll give you 2 marshmallows. So a third of the kids just grabbed the marshmallow and ate it. Didn't feel bad, they were hungry. A third of them looked at it, nibbled on it, put it back, kind of manipulated, which is on a negative wheel. And anger management, manipulation, controlling, interrupting, all those things. A third of them jumped back, played games, looked at it. When he came back, he gave him a second marshmallow. They didn't know what this meant. So 14 years later, these kids were now 18 years of age and graduating from high school and going to college. They gave college entrance exam. The kids that could wait for that second marshmallow scored 210 more points on a college entrance exam.
Wow.
So Daniel Goleman went to Princeton University, who does the test, and said, what's this mean? He said, that's the difference between college track and maybe dumb bunny class. It's tremendous on a test. So this ability to wait instead of react. So they went back and looked at them. They were the most popular kids in campus. They got in less trouble with the law. So just waiting 7 minutes, I think is what he was gone. It had big effects on these kids. So I tell people all the time, if 7 minutes isn't long enough to wait before you start to get into it, wait 14.
Sure.
Sometimes I've had to wait a lot longer than that. I think we all have.
Sure.
But when you start to become aware of it, you forgive yourself, guess what? You push forward, and then you become aware of it. You can't become aware of it until we start to talk like we're talking here today, and we share information, your story, your awareness, a little bit I know. So isn't that a great story?
That is a great story.
So you just wait, and it's just that one I think about all the time. Don't say anything right now, just wait.
Well, you know what I love about that story? For one, this particular show, it's a great analogy, but also I've always talked about, keeping that you always adjust, you're always off course in life. So constantly adjusting with personal development and, capturing the motions and capturing yourself or catching the things that you do or say, and adjusting and adjust and adjust, a lot like, and I talk about the shuttle, the rocket going to the moon is always off track. And if it's off 1%, it could be millions and millions of miles off track. So they're always adjusting. And here, that 7 minutes makes a huge impact on somebody's life. And now you think about it when it comes to anger and holding it. One of the stories that I've read and I've always held on to, and it helps me control, because the anger and catch it more often, was that someone told me that anger is like a wooden fence, and you're driving nails into that wooden fence. That's the pain that you drive, or something you do. And when you say you're sorry to someone, it's like pulling the nail out. But the hole is still there in the fence for that individual. And then not only that, the hole's in there for you. And having that, you need that wood putty, that forgiveness on both sides. But if you do it all the time, you're putting all these holes in the fence on that, whoever's taking the blunt, so your spouse or your kids, they've got these holes and they hold on to it. And that's those emotional negative triggers that stay in the mind that come back later. And one, forgiving yourself and adjusting to not do it anymore, but finding that wood putty to fix the holes for your kids and your spouse is critical.
So true.
So tell us a little bit more about, you talked just before we went to break about, I think it was 5 different ways of controlling. We talked about the first one, but tell us a little bit more and break down each one of those and for our audience.
All right, well, there's a whole bunch of different ways to go on that. That's really under the category of emotional intelligence, those 5 things.
Okay.
So we can go back to the start, what anger is, and so you've hit on it a bunch. I've talked to a lot of people in this profession, says, like I'm wearing my shirt today, people go, oh, you're an anger management teacher. I go, yeah, well, I don't need it. I never get angry. And I go, well, according to who? So I always want to know what a definition of it is.
Sure.
Because based on 8 basic feelings, all human beings get angry. And our filter system is how we're raised and who we were around.
Right.
So anything learned, so we're saying anger is learned, can be unlearned, we can put in a healthier coping. And so that's what you're doing with forgiveness, forgiving yourself, learning that you're not going to go off and go to rage. So the real key to this whole thing and the safety rule is it's 1 to 10. 1 to 10 on the anger scale. I don't know why everything's 10. Do you? Maybe the movie 10 came out. I haven't figured out why.
They're in alignment.
That's it. Yeah, I don't either. But 1 to about 3 or 4 would be stage 1. 3 or 4 to 7 or 8 would be stage 2, or a body feeling or a signal. So you got to get in touch with it. 1 out of 3 people go from stage 1 to 3, which is rage, and go off the charts. And they go, well, I didn't even know I had a feeling. So could you get aware of your feelings? I say yes, and that's where we can really work with them on their feelings and getting in touch with that. So that's stage 2. So I have stage 4, which is the most important. And so I've got this in my safety things. I got it on my card and stuff. It says respect yourself, even if somebody else disrespects you. This whole society has got this thing that if somebody disrespects you, you're going to go off. Well, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what they're on or what happened to them that day. So kids, in general, if somebody looks at them tough, throws up a sign or something, there is kids shooting each other because they call it respect. So I think real respect is you respecting yourself even if somebody else disrespects you. So that's what I teach. Respect yourself even if somebody else disrespects you.
Right.
So that's stage 4. So one smart kid goes, well, how come 4 is after 3? Mr. Gilbert, you got it upside down. I looked at him and I said, So I gave him this answer. Well, there was this old dead skunk in the road, and we were going up to Lake Almanor out of Chico when I was a kid, and so the parents would keep us busy, and so we started counting off. I 1 it, I 2 it, I 3 it, you 4 it, I 5 it, I 6 it, you 7 it, you 8 it. When you said you ate it, we all laughed at him. You silly guy. So then we go, there's an old squirrel with maggots on it in the road. I 1 it, 2 it, 3 it, 4 it, 5 it, 6 it, 7 it. Do you think that guy'd say ate it again? He says, no, I jumped over it and you ate it. So I told him that story. So you go to a body signal, jump over it, respect yourself, even if somebody's disrespecting you. And guess what? You almost got to walk away feeling like somebody got over, but once you do it, you go, man, I feel better.
Well, you know, Les Brown has a quote and a story, and actually it says that the opinions of the people's opinion of you should not become your reality.
That's perfect.
And
I like that.
And one of the things he talks about is that, is that if I came into your house and I poured garbage, and I've talked about this on the show before, that if somebody pours garbage on your living room and you stomp on it all over, that's going to piss you out. You're going to be pretty mad, right? Right. But that's what happens in our mind all the time. People are putting garbage in our mind, and a lot of this anger, stems from a lot of stuff that's happened in the past. And, well, there's 4 myths out there about true anger, and that is, myth 1, does anger always, should it always be vented, right? It's unhealthy to hold in anger, as we know, as a feeling, but should it always be vented? The next one is myth 2, being aggressive, angry, and intimidating is just a way of being strong, which comes back from, a conversation you and I had about, the men in the early ages and our older generation and what they were taught. And then myth 3 is my anger is beyond my control. I can't do anything about it, which is another myth. And then number 4 is anger management is all about suppressing my feelings of anger. And so these myths, I want to talk about that. We're going to actually go to a radio break here. And here on One Talk Network and Get the You Factor, and we've got our special guest Terry Gilbert with a whole list and slew of credentials. I think it was like the page kept going. My eyes started blurring, but he's bringing out some very valuable points for folks out in the show today. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go back to a break. Before we go to break, here on One Talk Network and the Get the You Factor, think about this quote. Anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. So let's go ahead and go to break, and we'll come back here in a minute.
Good job.
So when we come back, we'll talk about the myths, and then let's get into some of the other good principles.
Okay, good.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Any place you want to go, try to flow with it.
Yeah, one of the questions I'll ask you near the end, or Nicholas can ask you, I'll let you ask him,
Okay.
is what questions should we be asking? Right, that'll be the question.
Okay, good. That's good.
So this way in the audience, and then we'll actually want to have you talk about your stuff, and how does someone get a hold of you, and where, and so on. And we'll make sure that we get a link on our site to get over to you as well.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anything we can do to help out, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
If sometime money is some part, but if somebody gets it, that's all we need.
Yeah.
You
But
make
guess
that
who's going to
change.
get it first, gentlemen? We're the ambassadors right here in this room.
Yep.
Mhm.
So we got to be walking ambassadors. So we got to get it. I never liked that part. I could tell other people, but do I got to do it too? Oh
Yeah.
my God. So I'm doing pretty good with it.
Yeah. And we'll talk about the at the end, near the end.
Do you want to touch on stress at all?
Yeah,
How it
let's do
plays
that.
into it.
Yeah, I wanted to jump into stress a bit.
I can
Because
give you the
that's,
definitions and some things you can
let's do
do
that.
real quick, and then you could put 50 things. I got 50 things you can do for stress. Maybe you could
cool.
add that to your site or
Yeah.
something, or
Yeah.
you're welcome to have it.
I
Well,
could go
we'll-
off
we'll-
the
no,
laptop
we'll-
thing.
Yeah, play off the stress. Yeah.
Mhm.
We'll
So we
see-
just give them a couple and tell them it's there, and they can look at it. I mean, they're pretty simple, but they should know what stress is, and you got to feel it in your body.
So let's come back from the show talking about the myths, and then I know a big part to anger is stress.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And segue into it.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Yeah, especially in today's society with the economy and everything that's going on. Yeah.
It's rampant.
Yeah. Sure.
Oh, my goodness, it just doesn't quit, does it?
Yeah.
You're always going to have some.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what drives us.
Maybe.
But too much,
It's like a pressure cooker.
that's it. You can't do it. You got to count our blessings. Look at us. We're all sitting here healthy, Go to a positive one. Yeah, it's been fun.
5 minutes.
How much?
1 minute.
I heard 5. I'm like, what?
Now, are you running something during that time?
Yeah, there's commercials that are like automatically playing, and then it goes into a bumper like reintroducing the show, and then once that stops, the mic goes on, and then I turn all the automation system on, so you guys could tell it.
Oh, we all like commercials so much.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
But that probably helps pay the bill.
Exactly. We usually set up like affiliate type programs where and then we run the commercial, so anything that goes through themselves, we get a percentage, and then that helps pay for the show.
Yeah, good deal.
10 seconds. To what?
Welcome back to Get the You Factor with Mike Triggers and Nicholas Fordham. Today we're talking about anger management, and just before we left it away from the show, we talked about a few myths in anger management. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about the facts behind those myths.
We talked about that there's really 4 myths, and one of them is should anger be vented, right? Or is it something that you control and then discuss later? What do you feel about that particular myth?
All right. Well, it kind of goes back to the story we talked about, the marshmallow. So
Yeah.
if you're up around 7, 8 to 10, should you be venting your anger at that time? Never. That's called raging out of control. All I ever teach is you can have anger. It's perfectly okay. You might have a feeling, but you got to wait and go down before you deal with it.
Sure.
So
Be
you
calm.
can always talk about it. You got to resolve issues, is what you're saying. Resolve issues, but never when you're enraged and out of control. And every one of us has seen somebody enraged and out of control, either on the road, work,
Yeah.
home. It's just not. It's just not appropriate. So all I ever teach is never flip.
Yeah.
If you never flip, you got this thing down. So you got to understand the stages. Jump over it, respect yourself, and you'll always have it. So I've given you enough tools there to understand that that kind of answers itself. But yeah, you have to talk about issues and resolve them, like you did with your little sweetheart.
Sure.
Let's have a date night. It got you back to saying, now I got to do something positive, and look what you've done. You've turned something negative into a positive.
Sure.
So we're all going to go through those. So it's not a question of going through them, because other people might put them on us. It's how we resolve it.
Right,
That's
how we
EQ,
handle it.
or
Right.
emotional intelligence. So I think everybody's getting better, and education is the key. So that's
So
a little bit on that.
the other part of the myth that is being aggressive, angry, and intimidating is just a way of being strong. Like when people get mad off, they got to flare up like a peacock, I always say, right? I mean, and they're thinking that more likely people are going to respect them. Wouldn't you agree that that's probably not the best? That's a myth, obviously, that you don't.
No.
It's not the way to handle it.
Yeah, we got a couple wheels in anger management that I learned. In intimidation, I don't know where intimidation is ever put on a positive wheel. So any kind of intimidation is never good. So we try to get away with that with different ways of handling things, being assertive in your communication and those kind of things. So,
Sure.
yeah, that's a big myth there.
Well, and another one is that my anger is beyond my control. You know, people come to the sense that you know they can't control anger, which is not true.
No.
And a lot of times, if you drive it to the root, you can really quickly solve that problem or get rid of it. You know, a lot of people hold on to this negativity. It could have come from childhood.
Okay.
So that's a big myth, and you can get rid of it. Isn't that correct?
Well, I got to be a walking example. It's probably been almost 10 years since I've had a flip, and I probably get angry. I probably got angry on the way here. I got the wrong address, so I don't even.
Got
I thought
frustrated.
that was a test by you guys.
Yeah.
So now I'm finding out that it was just.
It was Bill Cook. He was testing you.
Okay, good, bro. It was a good test because I was walking around knocking on doors. And stuff. But you know what? I had fun. I
Yeah.
talked to a couple people. They knew I was lost, and they would just we laughed a little bit together, and it was fun. So you can take any situation and turn it around and do a positive, but they're going to come up.
Sure.
And so here you have to learn this. So if it's a learned behavior, so environment might play into it, stress might play into it. There's a lot of things that play into it. I'll tell you the one that I think that is hidden that nobody talks about is being tired. I didn't sleep good at night, so guess what's going to happen? Well, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
That's enough right now.
You're irritable.
Listen, so yeah, you get irritable.
Right.
So I've learned that sleep.
It's
so
same with eating, I would think too, right?
Eating, another one.
It's like the
Huge.
Snickers commercial.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Snickers
That's a
commercial.
great one.
You know, and that's a good point right there. Is people are suppressing their feelings. You know, they're tired. They're you know, they haven't eaten. It's a suppressed feeling,
Right.
But
Right.
then they unleash it on others. I think another big one that's suppressed, and you quickly mentioned it, is stress, right? And I know that Nicholas, you've had a lot of
Oh,
stress
man.
this week, and
Yeah, that's
what,
a lot.
I mean, what have you been experiencing?
You know, based on a couple laptops stolen and hours and hours and hours and hours of work disappeared, you know, on top of the world around us always is the stress of the current economy, you know, and I'm sure almost everyone that's listening out there right now feels that exact same stress. And you know, you mentioned that a lot of times anger comes back to those you love the most. And, you know, that's something that each and every one of us fight. And so what are some good things that we can do, whether it's meditation or I don't know, what to do to really help to alleviate that and release it before you get back to the home front?
All right, well, let's start at step one, and with that would be, let's give a definition. I always like that. That's a teacher in me.
Okay.
So stress is a mismatch of all the demands in your life versus your resources. When demands are ahead of resources, you walk around with this thing scientists have called it fight or flight. You probably heard that terminology before. So that means
Didn't
you're
understand
uptight.
it, but
Yeah. So, well, I'm on the TV, but I'm telling you, you can see somebody uptight, can't you? Don't look at me, don't touch me, because
Sure.
there's so much going on. You have nothing to do with it, and they're ready to go at a drop. So
Sure.
I can recognize that across the room, and I just kind of stay away from it. I
Sure.
just go, I better just kind of give them some wide berth. Well, you know what? You can't give everybody wide berth. So stress is a mismatch of all your demands and resources. So you got to get your resources up. That's education and things, and get your demands down. So there's a lot of things. Simplify, simplify, simplify. Get rid of credit cards. Man, once I got that one, I'm telling you, I had a big break on that one. I used to have a contest to see how many I could get. I got one now. Just to fly around and stuff. I simplified things. So pay your bills on time. Take a walk. A brisk walk at night is just awesome, isn't it? And you
Yeah.
think, boy, right then you're going to see a bird or something you wouldn't have paid attention to. So,
And actually, I like walking. I've tried. Look, I've been in the martial arts since I was real young, and I used to work out like 3 times a day. I was competitive kickboxer, and I got to the point where most professional athletes, believe it or not, are lazy. I mean, if you don't believe me, look at some of the retired athletes, right? They do it because that's their skill and they have to keep it up. But the reality is that you get to a point where you don't want to do, and I don't like working out, but I love taking walks, and it helps me meditate, right? And that's a good way, I think,
great.
also to relieve with stress is the walking. And workout does help for those that want to, I would assume. But what are some others?
okay. Well, I've got a list of 50 stress reducers. One of them that I really liked that I didn't pay much attention to was I had this customer that came in. He happened to be, I never say names on here, but he happened
Sure.
to be a high electrician at one of the centers around here in Sacramento. He came to me and I said, so we were teaching, and he says, you got to make a list. We went over this. He said, I know how to do that. And I said, well, why won't we do that? So I've always put 20, 25 things on a list. He said, nope, we'll only put 5 things on there. If you do more, write it down and check it off yourself. Nobody else touch it. I do it so you feel like you accomplished something. And he says, only take one of them and switch it over to the next day. And I looked at him, and I kind of scratched my head, and it didn't really hit me at first. And there was this lady sitting in the class that had 2 kids. They were twins, and she just had them, and she was stressed out of her mind. So she was in anger management. Wonderful person, but she was stressed.
Sure.
So she listened to this guy tell the story. That's the advantage of a small group. And so the next week she comes and she says, boy, that list making really works. So maybe how you make a list is important, because you can get frustrated if you got so many things to do that you don't get them all done. So keep it simple. It goes back to that same thing. So you can kind of tie everything into the same thing.
Oh, you know what? That's so funny, because I have a particular list, because as a high performer, you're always on, and you've got so many things going on in your life. Managing that chaos is important. And I have I went through a program on high performance, and I have a checklist, and then I break it down like, I have 3 main things I need to accomplish that day. What are the tasks that need to do to accomplish it? And then who do I need to rely on to be able to accomplish that? And I outline that day, each day. And, it's interesting. I think that you could even apply that to just everyday life, right? I've got to do these 3 top bills. What do I need to do? Make sure I got to have my checkbooks, or I have my kids. I got to manage their activities. I think, and then going back to simplifying. Right? A lot of times people feel overwhelmed because they've got so much, but they don't really break down what they have and break it down into smaller segments. But I think that helps in that stress. What are some other things? Because I know that's a big topic, especially with the economy today. A lot of people are just stressed out, and you can see it. You can see in the news a lot of the activities, things going on, and it just seems like everybody's just on the edge, and what are some other tips that maybe help people? At first we've got them recognizing it. Now you've recognized it. What do we do next?
Okay, good. Well, I think handling emotions and others is a big one too. And so we haven't really dwelled on that. So if you got a quick minute, I can tell you the story. Daniel Goleman was in New York City. Isn't that amazing? And so he's a big-time speaker. When he comes to speak, he gets $50,000 for a couple hours.
Sure.
Oh, I tell you what. So he teaches emotional intelligence. He had the best-selling book called Emotional Intelligence. Fantastic guy. And so I've studied a lot of his works. Well, he was in New York City, and he didn't have his fancy car. He's a Harvard University professor, and he studies the brain. I've told students before, wouldn't it be nice to look at a brain? Can you imagine, how do you even get a brain?
Sure.
Let alone, so he studied the brain and how it works. So he was in New York City doing a talk, and he didn't have a car. And so it was a hot day in New York City. It was hot and muggy, and so he went down to get on a bus. This bus driver did something really funny. He jumped off the bus and says, "Oh, what a beautiful day." Everybody was looking and said, man, this is hot, sticky, don't look at me, don't touch me. They were all uptight like we get. This bus driver jumps off and says, "Get on." So he gets on the bus, and he starts talking to everybody that gets on that bus the same, treating everybody like they were important. So the bus takes off, and he says, "See this little shoemaker off to the right? He makes shoes. Don't go to these high places and get shoes. Get this guy to make you a set of shoes before you get out of New York." So he's looking like this, and he said, "Ooh, see this Asian tower over here? They got a show over there, acrobatic show. You gotta see that." And he's going, "Wow. Oh, Mamma Mia, Italian cuisine here on the right. You gotta eat here." And so pretty soon we're at the end of the ride. Remember, I didn't even want to get on that bus. So the bus driver gets off, shakes his hand, and said, "It was beautiful having you on this bus today." He got up, adjusted his belt, and says, "It was nice being on his bus that day." He called that man an urban saint. He said, "We need more people like him. We need people just to do their job better." What you guys are doing here is fantastic. This gentleman over here doing his thing. It makes for a nice thing. See, that's what makes things work. We all got to quit worrying about everybody else and do our job a little better. And then if you don't like that, move up to the next level. So I love that story of being the bus driver.
Yeah.
Can we just be a happy bus driver? I mean, if I go to one more counter and get treated like I did, I remember when I first got into anger management, I was paying the woman at the counter, and she said, "Well, you know, Mr. Gilbert, 98% of all private businesses fail." I looked at her and I'm upset, and I wanted to say something mean to her, and I said, "No, that wouldn't be emotionally intelligent." So I went over to her and I said, "Lady, what's 100% of one?" She looked at me and said, she scratched her head. It took a while. Pretty soon she came up with one. I said, "That's me. That's all I'm worried about. I'm going to make it." So 11 years later, I've been doing it, and I've never been so happy.
Yeah.
What looked like a bad thing is now a great thing.
Sure.
So what's 100% of one might be our question.
I love that, 100% of one. And that's from our good friend Terry Gilbert of Capital Anger Management. And he's been sharing with us today a lot of the principles behind anger management and how to control and, how to eliminate and recognize. And, I think that's a big part of it in today's society. So, do you have any question that you want to?
No, the only thing, we've only got a few minutes left, and I want to thank you for being on the show. But one, real quick question is what haven't we asked you?
That we should have. Yeah. What have we haven't asked you that we should have?
Well, I'll tell you, Ben, pretty thorough for being just the first time really getting to know you and stuff. I think we went over anger and tips to management a little bit. They all get deeper. I just want everybody to get out there, and there's a lot of stuff on the internet now. It doesn't have to come from one person, but education is the key to change, and everybody needs different people to do it. Stress management we went over, emotional intelligence we went over, but the one that we didn't hit much was a little bit how do we communicate. So if this was a youth program, you'd hear I messages and all these things. Those are pretty standard things, but one of the things that really, I got a 10-year-old late in life, and he's just the joy of my life, but I wanted to get mad at him a couple times because he likes video games and stuff, and so now I cutting back on that, but I'm requesting help. Instead of demanding that he does something, I request, "Can I get a little help from you?" So all of you out there, if we request help from our mates and friends and all of our stuff, don't we do better? So how do we communicate it? So we want to do it assertive versus aggressive, passive-aggressive, and passive, which is all negative. So get assertive. So I think communication might be the answer to your question there. And that was kind of a little bit of a wrap-up there on you. But There's a lot of information out there.
Well, why don't you share with the folks how they can get in touch with you and
Okay.
from your either your website, or tell folks on the best way to get a hold of you.
Okay, yeah, I think that's the best way. I've late in life learned how to do things. So if you looked up anger management in Sacramento, capital anger management, that's OL, should pop up near the top. Give us a call. We're pretty good about answering live or getting back to you right away. We like to meet all the emotion needs of our customers. So we've got a lot of youth that are coming in, but I always tell the parents, if you're coming in, come on in and meet us first, because here's what education is. You can't teach anybody anything until they want to learn. If they want to learn, they'll get it. So I always give them a free evaluation. Come on in and talk, and if they think they can listen, then I'm ready to try to give them information. Not tell them what to do, but give them information. So we're at your disposal all the time. Internet's probably the biggest one. We're on a court-approved list. There's other things like that, but that's good enough for now.
All
So
right, Terry.
we'd love to hear from anybody. Thanks very much, gentlemen.
Awesome. Thank you
Awesome.
so
Thank
much
you,
for being
Terry
on the
Gibbons.
show, and really appreciate it. To finish the show out, remember these tips and more are on GettheYouFactor.com. We've got the top 8 tips on controlling your anger. And remember, this show, throughout the course for our educational radio video broadcast, combined with our online educational material and workshops, you will discover what has been hiding inside of you all along. Our program is built specifically for you to help you get what you want out of life. You will be presented with key fundamentals that will guide you through anything in life and help you to respond in a different way, a new way, a way you factor to be the best possible way for you. Thank you guys for listening in to GettheYouFactor.com. We'll see you on the next show.
Bye for now. Great show.